There once was a little girl who hated being alone. One cold and rainy night, her parents were running late for an event, but the new babysitter hadn't arrived yet. The little girl begged her parents to stay, but they were in such a rush that they left anyway. The little girl sat alone in her house that felt big and scary without her parents. She jumped at every creak and clutched her stuffed animals tight when it thundered outside. Suddenly, there was a knock, knock, knock at the door. She breathed a sigh of relief and rushed to let the babysitter in. Standing there with no umbrella was a very small woman. And oddly, despite the rain, she was totally dry. "I'm here to take care of you forever and ever." And then she smiled, a smile that was so wide it went up to her ears. The little girl was nervous about having such a strange babysitter, but at least she wasn't alone anymore. The girl started playing with her stuffed animals, and for a moment she forgot all about the babysitter. But when she looked up, the babysitter was standing over her, staring with her giant smile. The babysitter then took her hand and led her to the hallway where all the family photos hung. As they slowly walked from photo to photo, the little girl got more and more afraid. In each picture, her parents had been replaced by the babysitter. "I'm here to take care of you forever and ever." The little girl pulled her hand away and ran to get her stuffed animals, but they weren't where she left them. She frantically looked in her room, but they weren't there. She even went down and looked in the creepy basement, but her animals were nowhere to be found. She tried to hold back her tears when she heard talking in the kitchen. She crept in and saw the babysitter holding her stuffed animals, telling each one, "I'm here to take care of you forever and ever," before throwing them into the oven. The little girl screamed and ran up to her room and locked the door. She jumped into her bed and hid under the covers. But then she heard whispering coming from under her bed. The little girl slowly looked down. And there was the babysitter underneath the bed, smiling at her. "I'm here to take care of you forever and ever." She reached out her long, veiny hands and grabbed the little girl by the hair, dragging her under the bed. But the little girl broke free and ran to the door. It wouldn't unlock. The babysitter slowly slid out and shuffled towards her, saying, "Forever and ever, forever and ever." She grabbed the little girl and... Headlights blazed through the window. The little girl's parents were home. Her mom and dad rushed into the house. They'd come back early because the babysitter had called, saying that she was sick and couldn't make it that night. They called out for their daughter, but there was no response. Terrified, they ran through the house, desperately looking for her. But if they would have looked a little more carefully, they would have seen that there was a new photo on the wall. A photo of the little girl surrounded by all of her stuffed animals, which were now burned and deformed from the oven. And the little girl was crying in the photo because standing over her was a small woman in tattered old clothes with a wide smile, who would take care of her forever and ever. On a cold, dark night, a boy was trying to find his way home when he realized he had stumbled into a cemetery. He frantically looked for the exit, but around every turn was just more graves. Exhausted and scared, he slumped down in front of a small grave and started to cry. Suddenly, a strange light caught his eye, and he looked up to see a figure approaching. She was carrying an old lantern as she made her way through the graves. The boy asked the stranger to help him find his way out. The stranger looked down on him. She promised him that if he would listen to the stories about 3 different graves without running away, she would help him find his way home. The boy wiped away his tears and followed the stranger. She led him through the graveyard to a large, ornate grave and began the first tale. There once was an old man who was terrified of death. He used his considerable riches to turn his house into an impenetrable fortress, where no one could get in and cause him harm. One day, while checking the locks in his fortress, the old man fell and broke his leg. He called for help, but because no one could get in, he died from what should have been a minor injury. Now, he's doomed to haunt his own tomb, warning off anyone who gets too close. The boy rolled his eyes. He knew ghosts didn't exist and thought the stranger was just trying to scare him. He took a step closer to the grave. Suddenly, with an unearthly wail, the ghost of the old man appeared, broken leg and all. He wanted to run away as fast as he could, but he knew he still had to hear 2 more stories. The stranger ushered him to the next grave in the oldest part of the cemetery. There once was a strict school teacher who taught children in an old classroom in the middle of the woods. One day, when a storm was approaching, the children all begged to go home. The storm raged, blowing out the lanterns that lit the classroom. The children ran around frantically and bumped into the schoolteacher, spilling ink all over her blouse. The storm grew worse and worse until it blew away the schoolhouse, killing the schoolteacher and all the children in the process. In penance, the schoolteacher is now forced to wander the cemetery for eternity, helping children find their way to the afterlife. Then, the stranger opened her jacket, revealing an old-fashioned blouse covered in black ink. The boy realized the stranger was the ghost of the schoolteacher. He almost ran away, but he was so cold and tired, so he mustered up his courage and followed the dead schoolteacher to the last grave. It was the same small one she'd found him at. She began the final tale. Once there was a boy who thought he'd live forever. His parents warned him to always come home before dark. One moonless night, he lost track of time and found himself headed home in total blackness. He wandered the woods for hours, completely lost, until finally he saw a light up ahead. He ran to it, only realizing too late that the light was actually the headlights of a truck. He was killed instantly. But even then, the little boy refused to believe he was dead. He wandered the cemetery each night, looking for a way home, until he could finally accept his death. The schoolteacher set down the lantern, and the boy saw the name on the gravestone. It was his name. The schoolteacher offered her hand to the boy, but instead of taking it, he ran away, screaming, "He wasn't dead! He wasn't dead! He wasn't dead!" The next night, the lost boy was trying to find his way home again when he realized he had stumbled into a cemetery. There once was a boy who loved magic, but he didn't believe in it. He thought magic was simply a matter of tricks that could be mastered. Each day, his little sister waited for him at the bottom of the rickety attic stairs, begging to be his magician's assistant. She believed in magic, which annoyed her brother. But the boy would simply climb down the stairs, brush past his sister, walk straight to his room, and slam the door. She begged and begged for him to teach her magic. One day, the boy finally agreed. He walked toward his bedroom. His sister followed behind, excited. But then, he slammed the door in her face. "Ha ha ha, I made you disappear," he said through the door. The little girl gave up on her brother and found company with the old blind woman across the street. who surprisingly had some magic tricks of her own. Every afternoon, she would teach the little girl, until one day, she mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind a magician's box with a note for the girl that says, "A powerful trick that will even impress non-believers." She rushed home to the attic to tell her brother, interrupting his concentration. He scolded her, but was intrigued and followed her to the magician's box. The girl told her brother she would allow him to use it, but only if he let her be in his act. The boy reluctantly agreed. As the children lifted the box, they noticed a dusty portrait of the blind woman in her youth, wearing a black top hat, the kind a magician wears. The portrait stared at the children with glowing eyes. The whole way home, the boy couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The siblings set the magician's box down in their backyard. The girl, excited to finally do magic with her brother, climbs into the box. Still annoyed, the boy shuts the lid with the same force he used to slam his bedroom door the day he pretended to teach his sister a trick. "I wish she would actually disappear." And in the dark part of his heart, he meant it. He counted to 3, then opened the box. It was empty. Somehow, on her very first try, his sister had succeeded in hiding herself in the box. Why hadn't she revealed herself? He tried the trick again and again, but the box remained empty. The boy called out to his sister. Where was she? The boy spent the entire afternoon searching the house for his sister. She was nowhere to be found. Helpless, the boy ran across the street to the old blind woman's house. The windows were dark, except for the glowing eyes in the portrait. He ran back home, feeling again like he was being watched the entire way. The magician's box was still empty, its lid swinging open and shut with the wind. Night fell, faded into day and back into night, again and again. The boy had no idea how long it had been since he made his little sister disappear. Or was he the one who had disappeared? Finally, the boy laid the magician's box on the ground and climbed into it. He was so tired, but he'd stay awake to keep watch in case his little sister were to appear. The boy's eyes drooped shut. Darkness. "One!" screeched his little sister's voice. The boy gasped. His eyes shot open. After a moment, the lid to the box opened. "Ta-da!" sang the little girl, presenting her brother in the box. The boy looked around the backyard. It was summer again. It was almost dusk. Dazed, the boy begged his sister for an explanation. Where'd she gone? Where'd he gone? What happened? "You're not the only magician around here," his sister said, as she bowed deeply to an imaginary audience. Her eyes glowed. There once was a boy who would terrify his teacher with fake snakes, horrify his little sister with monster masks, and petrify his friends with blaring bullhorns. Every time he pulled a prank, he would hear his family and friends scream, which made him laugh and laugh. The prankster's friends were fed up. They decided they needed to give him a taste of his own medicine. They lured him into the cemetery one night, knowing he wouldn't be able to resist a ghoulish adventure. At the cemetery, his friends taunted him. "I bet you're too chicken to spend 10 minutes in that spooky tomb." But the prankster knew what was up and was determined to prove that he wouldn't get scared. He marched right into the tomb and set a 10-minute timer. It was dark and smelly and full of cobwebs and critters. And more than once, the prankster had to remind himself that nothing scared him. He reached an opening where there were large gravestones, and he took a seat. He would wait here until the time ran out. 8 minutes to go. When he looked up, he saw an old woman floating in the air, glowing as if lit up from the inside. "Welcome to my home," the woman continued. "My name is Winifred Williams. This is my home. You're welcome to stay a while." The prankster was impressed with this eerie illusion. There were no strings attached, no speakers or mic. He couldn't seem to find any tricks of the light. How are they doing this? He thought to himself. It's as if Winifred really is a... 10 minutes were up, but before he could leave, Winifred floated towards him. "Would you like to stay a while?" she asked. The prankster tried to appear confident as he rushed out of the tomb. But before he exited, he looked back to see Winifred faintly waving at him until she faded away. He took one step out of the tomb, and blam! A skeleton jumped out at him. His friends surrounded him, howling with laughter. "We got you! You were so scared!" the prankster had to admit. They got him good. His friends showed him the cheap plastic skeleton on a string that had given him a fright. The prankster admitted defeat and told his friends that Winifred was really a scary prank, and the skeleton was just the breaking point. "Who's Winifred?" his friends asked. And it was then that a haunting realization came over the prankster. He looked back at the tomb. Etched in the stone it read, "Here lies Winifred Williams, 1801 to 1880. The terror returned to the prankster's face as her last words echoed through his head. "Would you like to stay a while?" From the moment she opened her eyes and her parents said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she knew her 8th birthday was going to be a great day. She got a special breakfast with all of her favorites, pancakes and berries and 3 kinds of juices. She ate in a hurry, and since it was her birthday, she was allowed to have seconds. After all, the birthday girl gets what the birthday girl wants. When all her friends came over for her birthday party, the house filled with laughter and fun. The birthday girl was so excited that they were all there to celebrate her special day. She was thrilled to see a gigantic pile of presents and greedily ripped off the wrapping paper of each one. There were games, dolls, and cool new toys. She got everything she asked for. The birthday girl gets what the birthday girl wants. Finally, they brought out her cake and 8 candles were lit. Her family and friends sang happy birthday and told her to make a wish. The birthday girl shut her eyes and thought really hard. What's the one thing she wanted more than anything else? "I wish it was my birthday again tomorrow," she thought, and then blew out the candles, all 8 of them. As her friends began to leave the party one by one, all the excitement of her special day began to fade away. She was sad that she had to wait a whole nother year for her next birthday. That night, when she closed her eyes, she thought about how amazing it would be if it were her birthday again tomorrow. The next day, she woke up, and to her surprise, the first thing she heard was her parents saying, "Happy birthday, sweetheart." She thought it was a joke. She sat down for breakfast, where there were pancakes and berries and 3 kinds of juices, with seconds, if she wanted. She didn't understand what was happening and was too excited to care. Suddenly, her friends showed up, and the party started anew. When her parents brought out the cake, she was finally certain her wish had come true. This time, she noticed, instead of 8 candles on the cake, there were 9. She didn't think about it too much. She was having too much fun. After the birthday song was sung, and it came time to make another wish, she thought, "I wish it was my birthday forever." And as usual, The birthday girl gets what the birthday girl wants. The next morning, she again woke up to her parents saying, "Happy birthday, sweetheart!" She went down for her birthday breakfast, but something was different. Instead of pancakes, a plate of eggs was sitting in front of her. When she complained, her parents looked confused and explained that she said pancakes were just for little kids. The birthday girl thought this was strange, but that was just the beginning. When her friends showed up, they all looked so different. Some of them were complete strangers. The birthday girl caught a glance of herself in a mirror and couldn't believe what she saw. She'd grown 2 years older in 2 days. This was not what the birthday girl had wanted. This time, when she blew out her candles, she wished for everything to return to normal. That night, she struggled to stay awake. If she didn't fall asleep, she could make it to the next day, right? But as the clock ticked closer to midnight, she was overtaken with drowsiness and lulled into a deep sleep, waking up again to, "Happy birthday, sweetheart!" Another year older. With every new day, she saw her friends change. Her teenage years flashed before her over the course of a week. She saw her parents grow old, and one day, they weren't there anymore. Soon she was surrounded by her own family, people she could not remember meeting. And as she had every day for the last few weeks, when it came time to make a wish, she begged and she pleaded to not have another birthday tomorrow. The next morning, like every morning, she wondered, had she finally gotten what she wanted? Was her special day finally over? Then she heard, "Happy birthday, Grandma!" And she knew it was her birthday. All over again.